Okay, it's live on YouTube now. Hi everyone, I'm really excited to host Gabriele Sorrento. He's director at Vaction Technologies. He's CEO and co-founder of Mindesk. I have been following Mindesk development in the industry, and they are pushing the boundary in terms of mixed reality, AR, XR technologies, and it's a great pleasure for me to interview Gabriele.
Hi, Mayer. Thank you very much for having me as a guest today. It's an honor.
So, Gabriel, I'm curious to know your professional journey right after your college to this date. What were some pivotal moments and what got you interested in this space?
Yeah, I started working in the field of virtual reality for professional application, in particular in the AEC, right after college. This all started as a frustration of mine designing a complex project during my master thesis and during my really short career as an architect. I've interned in brands like Renzo Piano Building Workshop. So I've been dealing with certain projects that really required some imagination skill to visualize and to solve certain problems that most of architects has, but non-technical people not necessarily have. And technology can really help to this extent. So as said, I started working at a tool that will help everybody to visualize and collaborate easily using virtual reality. And starting from 2020, this project has become part of the Vaction Technologies families. Vaction Technologies, for those one who don't know that, is a publicly traded company that focuses in real-time application for enterprises. And we became the architectural base, the architectural spirit in this comprehensive set of real-time application that Vaction proposed. And the result of this has been incredible. We have architects, engineers, designers, students from all over the world that are now using and leveraging real-time rendering and virtual reality technologies to be immersed in their project before it's even built. That has something of incredible. If you think of the time that was and the expenditure of resources that used to characterize this workflow earlier in building physical prototypes and trying to simulate something that doesn't exist yet, the effort was massive, and our mission is to make it extremely easy.
That's awesome. And I'm curious to know what were some technical and business challenges while developing Mindesk?
I would like to start from the business challenge, because when we talk about business challenge, we are actually trying to talk about problem that people have and solution to this problem. So coming from an architectural background, from a design background in general, that also include structural engineering and other branches of the design. So coming from that background, I realized that the world is 3D, and so should be design too. We're still bound to older, like previous technologies that leverages technologies like 2D monitor and flat surfaces. They kind of constrain and damper the process of developing a project, which is not just creating. This is not just the creative phase, but also all the iteration to perfect, to make a project perfect, a project that respects the code, a project that gets the approval from a regulatory standpoint, and approval from the client standpoint. So those are all the requisites, the requirements that an architectural, but also a product must have to get into production. To get there, companies spend months in iterations, in processes that can be accelerating tremendously using technology. But using virtual reality technologies over the Mindesk platform, what we did is connecting virtual reality to CAD software and BIM software. So you can jump back and forth these two areas very quickly. And this will enable you to enter the project and experience the project before it's even built. What does this mean? It means that you're able to use all your senses to spot errors, to validate assumption like, will this fit in this space? Or will this room fit from a human factor, from an ergonomic point of view? If you think of, like, for example, the naval industry, there's always this question like, will this space feel comfortable? The distances of all the elements of this panel are correct, so the arm can reach everywhere. All these answers all these questions find a very easy answer when you experience that in 3D, in immersive 3D, because your body becomes the test bed for all these assumptions that every designer in the world meet at a certain point. And this segues us into the more technical problem. So to enable this, to make this easy for any designer, we had to change a few things in the state of art. So before Mindesk, the state of art was either, okay, we build a replica, like a prototype, or B, company use technology like Cave, which are extremely expensive, or other video game simulation technologies, which again were expensive in a way that designer had to elaborate the data coming out from CAD and BIM software a lot, like data preparation, simplification, UV mapping, remeshing, a ton of stuff that wasn't adding any value to their workflow. For the purpose of simulating that, with Mindesk, we basically removed all these steps and made it so that any designer can jump in VR or augmented reality with a click, and in a few seconds you're inside your project. And when you're inside your project, there are a number of things you can do. You can just explore it and experience it from the inside, or as well, you can invite more people from other places, because it's virtual, so that they can join from remote location and have a multi-user collaborative session to review that project. Or you can take that data and push it into Unreal Engine to have a real-time rendering. So the data becomes extremely flexible in this platform. And we developed a very, very special technology that makes this flow bidirectional. So once you are immersed in this virtual environment, you cannot just look at the project, but you can also edit the project and see it changing. And those edits happen in the source of this data. So assuming you are an architect working with a Revit model to get into the practical, you can link Revit to this virtual reality environment, and the Revit project can change while someone is inside it. So this enables for a new level of conversation with the stakeholders, whether they are just your colleagues or the client or the owner of that building.
That's so incredible. Like I could imagine it's not only VR, it's like VR BIM integration. Where so can you walk us like through the initial stages when the ideas was being brainstormed with you and other co-founders? What was the initial vision, and what were some like important decisions you had to make during the development, which were like crucial about deployment or technological development?
Um, yes. So some of the important choices we had to make were the scope of this project, the goal. Um, Initially, we started exploring the 3D modeling aspect of the workflow, and that's where we come from. But the project has evolved since then, and we all our decision throughout this process has been guided by the feedback we've been receiving from the operative field, from the from our clients directly. And then direction this has took is making this environment and using the editing power to extend and empower the design review aspect of that. So it's leaning towards the collaborative aspect, leaning toward connecting professional in a shared virtual environment, because that's where you can really achieve major step forward to bring the project into the production phase. Being able to share the project, make it sure that other people understands what you're doing, which is, it turns out, is not absolutely to be taken for granted. We speak and we work with the best designers in the world. We've been working with Zaadid architects, with Aero, with like think any brand, and you get it. And we've been working with the best ship designer, like the Italian Azimuth. And one shocking truth that we discover is that even the best designer in the world get to the production phase with design errors that they couldn't spot because of the limits that the tools today, the CAD tools provide. One thing in say is looking at a blueprint that is just a flattened section of the whole thing. A different thing is like getting there and see that pipe is hitting that door once you bake it in production. So this technology is really transforming the way people work by anticipating a lot of potential error that would otherwise be discovered later on in production.
Got it. And was there like a low point or a bottleneck in this whole entrepreneurial journey?
And sorry, to get back to your question about the important decision, this is an evolution that back when we started 6 years ago, we didn't see clearly that, but that emerged from our community, and that drove the choice to focus on this aspect.
Yeah, I could feel that it's also like in a startup, you start with some idea, and then with the feedback and the community and the market need, you evolve that idea. So I could relate to that.
That's always like that. I've seen this happening also in other companies.
Great. And to coming back to my previous question, like, was there any low point you felt during this whole development where things were not going the way they should be, It was challenging to get stuff done, or like what was the bottleneck?
Um, we One of the challenge we have as a developer is because we deal with such a different uh, so many different industries uh, with one of our products, um, and because CAD and BIM software go across many industries. If you think of not just architecture but also landscape design, defense, healthcare, education, product design, mechanical design. CAD is an extremely flexible technology that goes horizontal across all these industries, which means that we had to face many different requests coming from all these directions and came up with an environment that has the ambition to be the hub spot, the crossroad of all these necessities, of these requirements. So this is probably one of the most challenging aspects, which we responded with a flexible architecture and expandable architecture that can be that is composed of a core and many plugins that can be developed on top of that.
Got it. And since we are on the topic of like architecture in tech terms, like what is the tech stack and what are some languages you use to develop this product?
Oh, I see your audience is pretty technical, I guess. Yes, of course. So speaking of the Mindesk platform, it has been developed as a additional software layer on top of CAD and BIM software. This layer, which is the Mindesk core, connects to each of those source software. The connection is basically a web-based connection, even if sometimes it runs locally on the computer for single user sessions, but it can also run across the web in the cloud. And on top of that, we also develop a custom render engine. So again, one of the hardest choice was whether to develop this inside Unity or Unreal. We found that for certain application like visualizing complex and dynamic, massive project, that was not suitable because it implied a processing of the 3D model that we wanted to remove. So we built a new custom render engine based on DirectX 12 from scratch that is deliberately optimized for dynamic CAD data. And that enable what Mindesk is today, that enable to have a virtual environment that can suddenly, where everything can suddenly change without any preparation, without any extra processing. And that can run on laptops, which is quite amazing. You don't need like a spaceship computer to run this application.
Got it. And like my last question before we dive deeper into the application is, I'm imagining since you're communicating from CAD to the VR platform, like the memory, how is the data being transformed and like represented, like the memory management, and sometimes it's heavy, the loading time gets affected.
Oh, that's a great question. I cannot like flip all of my cards, but I can tell
Yeah,
you that we've been working many years in optimizing this process to get to the point where the user don't even notice what's happening, all the things that are happening in the background. I want just to give you one more bit of like technological detail. We leverage a lot of parallel computing to really drain any bit of performance from the current hardware that is commercially available off the shelf, including, of course, NVIDIA GPUs and modern processors.
That's great. Yeah. I think like it's a great time to see a demo of Mindesk VR and go deeper.
Yeah, and since you are from Perkins and Wills, I also wanted to share an experience we had with the Perkins and Wills office in California. Let me quickly share my monitor. So this is a case study / white paper we developed with Perkins and Wills called Instinct to Digital Impact, and that shows how Mindesk has been leveraged in a design process, iterative design process. The case orbits around the creation. Let me just to the final picture. Yeah, orbits around the creation of this public space. It's a very simple bike rack, but using virtual reality, the designer was immersed in this space and was able to edit the construction lines that then generates this canopy structure until the designer felt positive about optimizing the shape. Here we go. Yeah, the process involved getting to Mindesk and controlling this control point, which then triggered a Grasshopper script to generate the curves and the final structure. So as you can see, using Mindesk, you can take all this ring of the chain and join them together into a seamless workflow. All right.
So like just to clarify, the way it works is there's like a line-based geometry in Rhino. It's streamed to Mindesk VR. I manipulate those line-based geometry. Then there's a Grasshopper function which creates this surface areas and volume, and it's rendered.
And it's rendered correctly. It's rendered inside the VR, so you have a feedback, a visual feedback of what you're doing. But again, the data is flexible, so this geometry data can be pushed into Unreal, for example, to have a rendered view. So you can then do things like solar studies, shadows, glare, and much more, or just create a video presentation for your client that it's beautiful and stunning. All right. So I want to show you now how the software works on the operative way. I just need a moment to load my VR headset. So can you still hear me?
I can hear you.
Mayur, unfortunately, I cannot hear you.
You can't?
I just connected the VR headset that probably interfere with the audio stream. So let me do really quick. That's business as usual, but let me join with my phone so I can have a second audio stream.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Uh, I'm not getting the option. Oh, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, I can hear you as well. Fantastic. Okay. So basically what just happened is the computer that I'm using, usually you need two computers to stream, one to stream and the other to do the virtual reality experience. When you start the virtual reality, VR takes the resources from the computer, like audio and microphone, to direct into the VR app. And that's the reason why it does this is because when you join a multi-user session, also in Mindesk, you also have the VoIP functionality, so you can hear other people and speak, so other people can hear you. And this doesn't go well with the Zoom technologies. We're actually sending a letter to both Zoom and Microsoft, so this can be implemented and handled better in future Windows application. But yeah, it's normal business. Okay, so now we can move forward. I can share my monitor and show you how the process works. I have prepared a very simple project. We can now see side by side the Revit model and the Mindesk interface. So when you install Mindesk on your PC, it installed the core application, which is the Mindesk Studio that you see here on the right, and a plugin for the specific source software, in this case, Revit, and that generates some new comments like link VR. And that's all you need. You can then click this button. The system will do a really quick check, and it will ask you which view would you like to share. This is important because sometimes designers like to have different view which are associated with different filters. So sometimes you have a view of phase one of your project, or phase two, or completion. So that gives you the opportunity to filter exactly and focus exactly on what is important. So now you see the project is immediately appearing in the Mindesk Studio. And from now on, I can put the headset and be immersed. So we can explore this project together. Hopefully the frame rate through Zoom is good enough, but I can guarantee a super fluid from inside here. So let's explore this project. So the first thing I noticed that we can manipulate the project and move it around, like if it was a physical project. We could get inside it and explore in one-to-one scale. We could shoot rays just to move inside the project. Now we're exploring the kitchen. So let's say I'm the future owner of this house, and I want to kind of customize this house in a way that from this point, I want to see the chimney. So I could ask the designer to move this window. There's a very simple tool for this. We can activate the pen and say, hey, move this on the right and align to this. So now I created a very simple sketch on this wall. And the sketch data is saved into the BIM model. So if I hit save on Revit, someone else opening this project can further edit that and see that. So let me show you one thing. We still have Revit here, and we still have this window. So the designer, which can be joining the session from remotely, can change the code, and this immediately is reflected inside the virtual reality. So you can see how this tool can open up for unprecedented collaborative opportunity. And this is in terms of interaction, but it's also a good way to explore the properties of the product. Like, for example, we can inquire this wall and read all the metadata associated with it, which is extremely important in the BIM world. And once this is done, you can just create, aim, and click to create a screenshot, and then share this screenshot with colleagues and other stakeholders. So the process is extremely fluid and also extremely powerful. There is one more thing I would like to show you, which is the multi-user aspect of it. So let me just, here we go. Oh, nope. This one. All right. We have a YouTube channel, which I recommend everyone to subscribe, called Mindesk. Surprise, surprise. Here we go. And the first video you'll find.
Pre-order the all-new Google Pixel 6 and save $99 on Pixel Buds A-Series.
The first video you'll find is this one. That clearly shows how basically what I just showed to you. But if we move forward, this is what a multi-user session looks like. So you can see other people in form of avatar. You can recognize them easily because there's the tag name, and basically share the same virtual room and iterate on this project. Now, when something has changed in Revit, this immediately propagates to everyone joining the room. So this is where you can add the contribution of everyone. In this other case, we use Mindesk to connect the BIM model into Unreal Engine. By doing so, we could easily play with light shadows and materials and apply them to the project for a super quick visualization. I want to show you this again. Oh, here we go. There is a detail I want to show you. So even in Unreal, the geometry is manipulated from Revit. So when then this window is moved, again, moves also in Unreal. So the takeaway of all this is that back in the day, all this software part of a single workflow were siloed. And Mindesk is bringing them together with a direct piping, data piping among them, which is real time, which is amazing because it's gonna save hours and hours of hard work. I think that's that summarize the goal that we're reaching with this technology and how we intend to foster the development of design projects.
I think like that's a great product demo, and like those features were amazing. I'm curious to know, let's say if you define or add more materials in Unreal, and if that material is not defined in Revit, are there like compatibility challenges?
That's a great question. So Revit always assign a default material, and you can either choose to stay with the default material or customize your material. But at the end of the day, every Revit model has a bill of materials, like the list of all the materials that have been used in that specific project. What Mindesk does is translate this list into an Unreal list of materials. So you can say material blue and translate it into glass. So every object that has material blue in Revit becomes glass in Mindesk.
I see. And this also follows like real-time changes. Like if I do something in Unreal, it will reflect back in Revit.
Exactly. So if in Revit you change something from material blue to material red, in Mindesk will become from glass to copper, for example. And again, you choose who is who using the material table tool that translates, and that's a free choice of the designer to manage this.
Got it. So actually the intent I was asking, let's say I add like a silver material in Unreal, will it appear as a generic material in Revit, like a particular color?
Yes. Yes, correct. So materials are not extremely implemented in Revit, and it's not our goal to do so. So we're not changing, we're not reinventing CAD or BIM. CAD and BIM tools are what they are, and industry love it. They've been around for over 30 years. So I think they reached the optimal stage in terms of evolution. These platforms wants to expand the software into the VR, AR world and real-time rendering world without changing the nature of this professional software.
Got it. I was just thinking that if I were to share this VR experience on the web, like is there any like iframe where okay, I have my VR deployment and I can host that on my web page?
That's a great question. That's a great question, and we are actually working at a web interface for Mindesk. That's under development. But you still can shoot a video and share the way I've shared with you today.
Got it. Yeah, the reason I asked is like I was looking into A-frame and like web VR, so I was like thinking, can we have like a workflow where even if someone on the website doesn't have a VR, they can like tinker around and like either immersive 3D or web VR experience. We can keep it optional.
Again, we're exploring those possibilities. Now, remember that we could achieve this performance leveraging a custom render engine. To develop the web interface, we need to rely on existing web rendering based like WebXR. So again, we're exploring that, but that's definitely, we recognize this as a natural step forward to open up this environment to even more people.
That's awesome. And
I was wondering about the sketch part you told. So, like, if we make a sketch and will it come back to Revit, or how the person gonna address, like an architect gonna address what a user have marked on that wall or something?
So the data is physically stored inside the Revit. You still cannot see it in the Revit file, but if you mail that Revit file to someone else and they open up in Mindesk, they would see that drawing. One of the features that we're working on is to make this data viewable inside Revit without having Mindesk installed.
yeah, I can imagine, like, because Revit doesn't have like a pen tool, so either maybe you could do like a raster image of that markup, or it's gonna be challenging to showcase. Yeah.
Well, we can store them as I think the strategy we'll follow is storing them as a polyline, which is a data that Revit can represent.
Got it. Have you seen any workflow project where person started in Mindesk VR and then created initial geometry and then added more objects in Revit and came back to my Mindesk?
I think the bike rack from Perkins was something like that. Is the initial prototype was done in VR, and then was introduced some grasshopper coding, and then fine-tuned, iterated until the final stage.
Good. And currently, what are the platforms Mindesk VR support? Like what software integration?
We currently support Rhino, Grasshopper, SolidWorks, and Unreal on the Mindesk 2021 platform. We're now transitioning to the Mindesk 2022, which include Revit as well. And of course, more integration will be announced in future months.
That's awesome. Yeah, I like in my studio, most of the people were also using like Lumion or Twinmotion. So it would be interesting to have like that integration. But the hard part about AEC is there are so many software. So once you start making like those integrators, like the list is endless.
Yes, we do realize, and we have a vision where the designer should stop worrying about, oh, can I use this with this? But all the software should be connected, and not just all the software, but all the people in a team should be connected. So connection, I think, is the key value that we're bringing.
Got it. And what is your piece of advice for people who wants to develop this expertise in immersive 3D design? Like what software or coding language you recommend them to learn?
I will definitely recommend looking at either C# or Python. Like if you think of, like, for example, both Dynamo and Grasshopper, for whoever is passionate like me in computational design, C# and Python are the leading code languages to implement new modules in these frameworks.
I see. And if
They're
you have
fairly easy to learn, at least fairly easy to get started with, especially Python.
Yeah, definitely. And also like with Python, with interactive Python, like Jupyter, It's way more easy now to get started.
And the other advantage is that there is a huge community around that. So there are resources everywhere. There are websites that teach you how to code, endless video tutorials on YouTube. So you're not alone.
Got it. And from my perspective, there are like few people who are very uh, adaptive about new technologies, and there are some aspect of the industry which are a bit conservative. So like if you were to change something and increase the adoption of VR based design and collaboration, what will you do?
Can you elaborate on this question?
Like what are the ways we could increase like this kind of tools adoption in the industry?
So to increase the collaboration, a good direction is observing what is done already in real life, see how people interact, and reproduce like physical tools in digital. So one of the tools that I already show you is this 3D pen, which is the digital translation of, what every architect use, every designer use on their table. Another tool that I haven't shown you but is available in Mindesk is the digital ruler to measure from point A to point B. And if you think about it, the name of the software is Mindesk, which is like a virtual desk that you explore with your mind. And that's the whole concept behind creating a digital twin of the current workspace.
I see. Sujay has a question. Does Mindesk allow for virtual sculpting similar to clay sculpting? If not, is this something you plan to develop in future?
My answer is if we end up integrating a 3D sculpting tool like Blender or Maya, then yes. It's all about which tool we integrate with, because again, we don't want to reinvent the wheel or to come up with specific tools our own. We'd rather respect existing workflows that are just not optimized enough.
Got it. And my last question on the advice is, what are some business lessons learned during this journey? And if there are folks in the EC who plan to do a startup, what advice will you give it to them?
Oh, easy one. Get out of the building. There are gazillion number of assumptions that you have to do when you start, and assumptions are good because especially when you start, you don't have the resource to get all the answers. But the best thing you can do is get out and hang out with the end user, and it's even better if you have that background. So myself, coming from a design background, that helped me a lot in finding not the right answers, but the right questions. So finding the right question is the first step, and hanging out with people that will end up being, your partners or your clients is the best thing ever you can do.
That's a great piece of advice. And I have a few light questions to end the interview. So first is, how does a day in your life look like?
It's nothing special. I bike from home to office. We got back to our office safely, fortunately, because California was one of the first states distributing a mass adoption of vaccines. So now it's safe. We got started. We schedule our meetings with other designers, other member of our community. whenever possible, either myself or a member of the team visit other companies to share some moment with them, to see how they work, and learn. A lot of learning for sure.
I see. I think like
And then there is
one
boring administration, but I rather not talk about that because it's boring.
yeah, like I think like it's the reason, one of the reason I asked that question is it also helps like people who aspire to do similar work like yours understand what how their life looks like and maybe take inspiration. So my next question is, what other technologies apart from VR, XR, or AR like inspires you or you find interesting?
There are many other technologies that I'm personally passionate about. One of them is definitely space exploration. Today I just tweeted the address of the FAA, where everybody can send an email in support of the SpaceX orbital launch, which is currently under scrutiny for the FAA for authorization. I think that's one of the technology that will push human boundaries over the Earth. And that's also a huge design challenge, because you need to come up with new ideas about how to build those ships, those vehicles that will bring us there. And once we get there, there will be even more design challenge about new dwellings in this very different environment. So all very exciting. And that's something, a technology that project us outside. There are also technology that project us inside ourselves, like the human, like the brain-computer interface, which will soon cross path with VR. That's my personal prediction. I don't know when this is gonna happen, but also the technology will go to a speed that always surprised me. So who knows? We could see some relevant update in our lifespan.
Yeah, like it always excites me when like imagining wearing a VR headset and wearing that neurotech device. The VR environment is dynamically changing as per your brain's response, and like there's so many.
To me, the future of VR headset is no headset at all. Who knows? There's this company called Mojo, who's trying to develop contact lenses, AR-enabled contact lenses, and that's one of the boldest statement I have ever seen in the tech world. So
Not come to physical world. People will not see the physical world. They'll be always in VR. What is this?
It's kind of a mixed reality. So you will see a mix of real and imaginary world. It's like you have an object in front of you that doesn't exist, but it's blended with the reality. Again, I'm curious to see what they will come up with, because that's gonna be exciting.
Definitely, I'll check that out. Any book or article or video which made a big impact in your life?
Oh yes, I'm currently reading the biography or Palmer Luckey and his journey in building Oculus and then his final journey into Facebook. That's very inspiring, and he's a person who really gave it a shock to the VR world. After the first wave in the 90s, that world was like nearly dead, and like a phoenix, he could like bring it back to life.
Got it. And like I wanted to know like some advice. Like you mentioned about going out and getting interacting with the customer.
Mhm.
So what are some like product management or UI UX related advice you would like to share?
It's an interesting question. How do you envision connecting the client relation with UI UX? Like, is the question about how we integrate feedback into our UI UX?
Yeah, like how do you develop UI UX which is like engaging to client, and also like based on the feedback how you improve it?
I think again observation. So what we look at when we observe our partners and clients is what they struggle with. So we usually give a demo to clients who wants to engage with us for free usually, and we see where they get stuck. Like sometimes they get stuck with the use of a particular feature, or sometimes they come up with question. And after many of this experience, you can see the weak points emerging, and that's exactly where you have to focus your energy in improving and simplifying the software. And here's the thing: like it's very easy to make a complex software. It's very hard to make a simple one. So that's from like a product management standpoint, that's our ongoing effort to make it like extremely simple and foolproof.
Any weak point that you faced in Mindesk, and it was like a uh, leading leading piece of advice that you used in Mindesk while creating it?
Yeah, and the one I just mentioned it's really the one I care most of, like simplicity. It's incredible how simplicity is underestimated, but it can change completely the sort of a software and make it a software uh, like emerge over competitors. Is the simplicity over over performance, over the power? I would say simplicity is the, especially when it comes to AR/VR, because AR/VR is already a fairly complex environment by itself. So the last thing I want to do is add a layer of complexity.
Yeah, AC is already complex enough to add more tech products to make it more. Uh,
But it's some complexity that I think it's worth dealing with, considering the uh, enormous simplification that ends up bringing. So if you draw a balance at the end of the day, as a designer, you're getting tremendous advantage, which I've just discussed.
got it. I'm curious to know your thoughts on metaverse.
Metaverse,
Yeah.
namely the most abused word nowadays. Let me tell you this. What define metaverse to me is people. So I was really pleased watching the Ernest Cline Ready Player One, and to see the movie, and everybody has that vision stuck in their mind. I think we'll get there. I think we'll get there soon. I think there are notorious companies and giants working toward that. We'll see. We'll see. I see the word metaverse popping everywhere, but I don't believe anyone has achieved it yet. But that's an inevitable consequence that will happen. So for now, I will sit and watch.
I see. Do you think like do you advise us to prepare for the demand of virtual assets in Metaverse?
Yeah, to achieve Metaverse, AR VR should go mainstream, and with mainstream I mean like 1/3 of the population using it. For this to happen, devices need to change radically, become absolutely transparent, invisible, light. You don't even have to notice that you're using them. And we've seen a lot of efforts from the industry navigating in that direction. And again, we're not yet there, but it's coming closer and closer. From a business, like professional standpoint, it's a whole different, because in business, in enterprise, you're working in a controlled environment, like an office or a laboratory. So it's much easier to use this technology in a controlled environment as opposed to like on the streets.
I see. And I'm just thinking that a lot of like people are speculating that in order to create, let's say, interaction or malls in those metaverses, uh, they might hire 3D artists or architects to build that. So I just wanted to know your speculative thoughts that should architecture be open for other business opportunities?
That's another interesting story, a very interesting question. And my answer is yes, they're right. Creating metaverses or creating virtual world will requires and will imply a tremendous surge in the request of 3D artists and 3D modelers. And I think this will be one of the emerging new jobs of the future. So we constantly hear this story of technology destroying jobs, like robots stealing jobs to real work. The truth is like the job market is constantly evolving. There are crafts that disappeared from a centuries ago. Like people used to be umbrella, to handcraft umbrellas, and those used to be very expensive. Now you can get an umbrella for as cheap as like $3. It's just changed. Now, today, it's much more relevant to have people managing the maintenance of the machineries that are building the umbrella. But again, as vacuum technologies, we're also building new technology that will remotize the the assistance to manage these machineries, and this will induce or will allow companies to reduce the people on site. And again, it's a constant transformation where technology create new craft, create new jobs, and take over existing ones. So it's to me, it's a flow. It's a circular. The end game, the sum is zero.
Got it. So I have last two questions and switching our gear back. What frustrates you the most about AC, or in a softer words, like what are some areas of improvement?
It's I cannot think on my 2 feet. I cannot think something that really frustrates me. For sure, there are many challenges. Like for example, creating a software that is extremely stable and reliable. That's definitely a challenge, but it's not frustrating. It's actually interesting and stimulating, for sure.
Okay. And which city is in your travel bucket list?
what's in my travel bucket list?
Yeah.
That's another interesting question. I'm pleased to see that at least the United States administration is lifting restriction beginning from next month, I guess. So we'll see. It will definitely be the opportunity to meet some of our international clients overseas, and we have like clients everywhere in Europe, Canada, Mexico, even South Africa. So it's truly exciting.
Awesome. It was a great talk. Thanks a lot, Gabriele, for your time to share your thoughts and work with us.
Absolutely.
And Mindesk is a great product. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Good luck. Bye.